S-P-E-A-K, everybody wanna say, speak up, S-P-E-A-K, speak up.
An environmental group is warning that the hot weather in Mexico is among the causes of many deaths of howler monkeys. Howler monkeys are big primates known for the loud sound they make. The Associated Press, or AP, reported that the group Biodiversity Conservation of the Usumacinta said that at least 138 howler monkeys have been found dead. The deaths have taken place in the state of Tabasco on the Gulf of Mexico. Local people rescued others, including 5 that were rushed to a local veterinarian who tried to save them. They arrived in critical condition, with dehydration and fever, said Sergio Valenzuela. It was a heat stroke. Mexico's severe heat wave has been connected to the deaths of at least 26 people since March. Veterinarians and rescuers said it has killed tens or even hundreds of howler monkeys. The AP said that 1/3 of the country reported high temperatures of 45 degrees Celsius on Tuesday. In the town of Tecolutilla, Tabasco, dead monkeys started appearing in recent weeks. A local volunteer fire and rescue team recently brought in 5 of the creatures. Valenzuela told the AP that the volunteers asked for help. They asked if I could examine some of the animals they had in their truck. The veterinarian put ice on their limp hands and feet. They were given fluid with nutrients. The monkeys appeared to be recovering. They're recovering, they're aggressive, they're biting again, he said, noting that is a healthy sign. Most are not so lucky. Wildlife biologist Gilberto Pozo counted about 138 of the animals dead or dying on the ground under trees. The deaths started in early May. They were in a state of severe dehydration, and they died within a matter of minutes, Pozo said. Already weakened, the falls from dozens of meters high cause more damage that often finishes the monkeys off. Pozo said there were several causes for the deaths, including high heat, drought, forest fires, and logging. All of that leads to less water, shade, and fruit for the monkeys to eat. Pozo noted that it is also possible a disease is causing the deaths. Pozo said the local people have tried to help the monkeys, especially babies. They see the young animals around their farms. But he said that can be dangerous. The babies are very delicate. They can't be in a house where there are dogs or cats because they have diseases that can be deadly for howler monkeys, he said. After the monkeys recover, they must be released into the wild, Pozo added. Pozo's group has set up special recovery stations for monkeys. It currently holds 5 monkeys, but birds and reptiles have also been affected. He is also trying to organize a team of specialized veterinarians to give the primates the care they need. Below average rainfall across the country so far this year has caused lakes and water supplies to dry up. Officials have had to provide water for hospitals and firefighters. Low water levels at hydroelectric dams have led to electricity outages, or blackouts, in some parts of the country. Pozo said the death of the monkeys says a lot about the state of the whole ecosystem. He told the AP, "It is telling us something about what is happening with climate change."
The Middle Ages. Augustine of Hippo. Augustine of Hippo, known in many Christian churches as Saint Augustine or sometimes Saint Austin, was no saint as a young man. Born in 354 in Tagaste, a now vanished city on the site of what is now Souk Arras, Algeria, he was a pleasure-seeking playboy who lived in the fast lane until his mid-30s. A professor of rhetoric, first in Carthage and later in Rome and Milan, he had a mistress in Carthage, with whom he sired a son named Adeodatus, and there were other paramours in Milan. He was noted for a prayer in which he asked God, "Give me chastity," but not yet. His mother, a devout Christian convert named Monica, took a dim view of Augustine's debauchery and tried for years to convert her son. He went through a series of philosophical attachments, Manichaeism, skepticism, and Neoplatonism, before renouncing his hedonistic life and adopting Christianity. He later became a bishop in the city of Hippo, Algeria, a revered father of the Church, and the author of several notable works on theology, which include The City of God and The Confessions. Augustine held carefully reasoned and theologically detailed ideas about what happens to people after death, stemming from his reading of the Bible and from traditional Catholic teaching. He was noted for expounding the doctrine of amillennialism, the belief that Christ was now reigning in a symbolic 1,000-year period that would be followed at world's end by final judgment and the establishment of a permanent kingdom of God. Augustine taught that the eternal fate of the soul is determined at death, and that the fires of purgatory purify those who die in communion with the Church but are still tainted by sin. Augustine's death came at the age of 76 on August 28, 430, of a virulent fever, aggravated by stress and malnutrition, which he suffered 3 months into a siege of the city of Hippo by the German tribe known as Vandals. The Vandals kept Hippo under attack for 14 months, and 25 years later, ensuring their name would be known for centuries to come, the same bunch sacked Rome, leading to the fall of the Roman Empire. Augustine's remains were buried first in the Hippo Cathedral, but when Catholic bishops were expelled from northern Africa by the Vandal ruler Huneric in 484, they took Augustine's bones with them to Cagliari in Sardinia. About 720, the remains were acquired by the Bishop of Pavia, Italy, who deposited them in Pavia's Church of San Pietro in Ciel d'Oro, where they now reside.
You will hear a man telephoning to ask about a job in a hotel.
Hello, West Bay Hotel. Can I help you?
Oh, good morning. I'm ringing about your advertisement in the Evening Gazette.
Is that the one for temporary staff?
That's right.
Yes, I'm afraid the person who's dealing with that isn't in today, but I can give you the main details if you like.
Yes, please. Could you tell me what kind of staff you're looking for?
We're looking for waiters at the moment. There was one post for a cook, but that's already been taken.
Oh, right. What are the hours of work?
There are 2 different shifts. There's a day shift from 7 to 2 and a late shift from 4 till 11.
And can people choose which one they want to do?
Not normally, because everyone would choose the day shift, I suppose. You alternate from one week to another.
Okay, I'm just writing all this down. What about time off?
You get 1 day off, and I think you can negotiate which one you want. It's more or less up to you, but it has to be the same one every week.
Do you know what the rates of pay are?
Yes, I've got them here. You get £5.50 an hour, and that includes a break.
Do I have to go home to eat, or...?
You don't have to. You can get a meal in the hotel if you want to, and there's no charge for it, so you might as well.
Oh, good. Yes, so let's see. I get £231 a week.
You'd also get tips. Our guests tend to be quite generous.
Is there a uniform? What about clothes?
Yes, I forgot to mention that. You need to wear a white shirt, just a plain one, and dark trousers. You know, not green or anything like that. And we don't supply those.
That's okay, I've got trousers. I just have to buy a couple of shirts. What about anything else? Do I need a waistcoat or anything?
You have to wear a jacket, but the hotel lends you that.
I see. One last thing. I don't know what the starting date is.
Just a minute. I think it's sometime around the end of June. Yes, the 28th, in time for the summer.
That's great. I'm available from the 10th.
Oh, good. Well, if you can call again, you need to speak to the service manager. Her name's Jane Irwin. That's Urwin. And she'll probably arrange to meet you.
Okay. And when's the best time to ring?
Could you call tomorrow? She usually starts checking the rooms at midday, so before then if you can, so she'll have more time to chat. I'll just give you her number because she's got a direct line.
Thanks.
It's 832-009.
823-009.
No, 832.
Oh, okay. Yes, I'll do that.
And by the way, she will ask you for a reference, so you might like to be thinking about that. You know, just someone who knows you and can vouch for you.
Yes, no problem. Well, thanks very much for your help.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye.
Sex scenes on screen. Frisky business. Data shows sex on screen has sharply declined since 2000.
50 years ago, the Supreme Court dabbled in film criticism. A cinema manager in Georgia had been prosecuted for distributing obscene material in the form of Carnal Knowledge, 1971, a film about two men's sexual pathologies, starring Jack Nicholson and Art Garfunkel. It was rated R, denoting adult content, but it was hardly explicit. In one scene, you can hear moans of pleasure, but all you see is an empty living room. The court ruled that the film was not obscene. Scriptwriters, directors, and distributors in the West no longer fear censors' wrath. But the subject of sex is being judged again, this time in Hollywood circles. Recently, filmmakers, critics, and viewers have been debating the lack of sex on screen. Some feel that Hollywood has entered a puritanical age and place blame at the feet of the Me Too movement and the ubiquitousness of celibate superhero films, as well as the need to appeal to buttoned-up markets abroad. Others disagree. They point to examples of highly explicit scenes in recent films, including Fair Play and Poor Things, which involve sex in public toilets and brothels. Who is right? Stephen Follows, a film data analyst, has examined the 250 highest-grossing movies in America every year since 2000. By parsing data from film rating bodies, as well as information from movie databases, in which a title's sex and nudity is ranked on a scale from none to severe, he has found that the level of sexual content in films has fallen by almost 40%. Abstinence, in other words, is in vogue. In 2000, less than 20% of the highest-grossing movies had no sexual content at all. Today, almost half lack it. There may be fewer sex scenes, but those that make the cut are more graphic than ever before. In 1992, a flash of genitals in Basic Instinct sent audiences and critics into a tailspin. In 2023, full frontal female nudity featured in the films Joyride and No Hard Feelings without prompting a furore. Both Fair Play and Saltburn, also released last year, even had characters performing oral sex on their lovers while they were menstruating. Erect penises, once strictly verboten, now filmed using a prosthesis, have popped up in films such as May December. Mary and George, a historical drama series about King James I of England, strives for naked realism. In one scene, George, the king's favourite, licks his hand to lubricate his penis. D.C. Moore, the screenwriter, says that it is a story about a monarch whose desire pulls him apart, so you need to see his desire. Some viewers may desire not to have seen it. Intimacy coordinators play an important role. On set, they liaise with the director and actors to choreograph scenes with sex and sexual violence. Ita O'Brien is a leading intimacy coordinator who has worked on shows including Normal People, about lustful adolescents, and films such as Magic Mike's Last Dance, about male strippers. She likens her job to that of a stunt coordinator who wants to keep actors safe while choreographing the most exciting fight they possibly can. Sex can still be explicit, she says, but it's in service of the character and storytelling. As a result, intimacy coordinators will often ask filmmakers to consider why the moment is important in the narrative. After all, viewers who want to watch sex without a credible story have easy access to pornography on the internet. Ms. O'Brien says that sometimes those conversations result in changes to the script or the sex scene being deleted. Instances where that has happened are ammunition for those who feel that Hollywood has been underperforming in the bedroom. Some actors, including Jennifer Aniston and Sean Bean, have said that intimacy coordinators are unnecessary or that they stifle the spontaneity of sex scenes. That they have become almost ubiquitous on film sets in the wake of Me Too, detractors argue, suggests that they are a symptom of a more censorious age. Yet other actors have praised intimacy coordinators and say their efforts help them to focus on the job. Kristen Stewart, the star of Love Lies Bleeding, a racy new film, has said that choreographing amorous moments, rather than being thrown into them, prevents actors from being self-conscious face smushers. The fate of the sex scene rests with the next generation. That does not bode well. Generation Z is notoriously chaste. Not only are youngsters having less sex than their elders did, but they also want to see less of it on screen, according to a poll conducted last year by the Center for Scholars and Storytellers at University of California, Los Angeles. Asked to rank 19 topics they enjoyed watching in TV shows and movies, adolescents put romance and/or sex 13th. 7th was content that doesn't include sex or romance. The future, it seems, may be PG-13.
Sharpen your skills with this next listening session. Listen closely and snag every new word that floats by. Let's master your vocabulary. Unsheathe your inner voice and practice pronouncing each word. Craft a short sentence to acquire its meaning and lock it in your memory. Let's unleash your vocabulary potential.
You will hear a man being interviewed on local radio about a plan to improve a suburb called Red Hill.
Good morning, and welcome again to Your City Today. With me today is Graham Campbell, a councillor from the City Council. He'll be telling us about the plan to improve the fast-growing suburb of Red Hill. Good morning, Graham, and welcome to the show.
Good morning, Carol.
Now, Graham, I understand that there has been a lot of community consultation for the new plan.
Yes, we've tried to address some of the concerns that local groups told us about. People we've heard from are mainly worried about traffic in the area, and in particular the increasing speed of cars near schools. They feel that it's only a matter of time before there's an accident as a lot of children walk to the school. So, we're trying to do something about that. Another area of concern is the overhead power lines. These are very old, and a lot of people we spoke to asked if something could be done about them. Well, I'm happy to report that the power company have agreed to move the power lines underground at a cost of $800,000. I think that will really improve the look of the area, as well as being safer.
That's good to know. But will that mean an increase in rates for the local businesses in that area?
Well, the power company have agreed to bear the cost of this themselves after a lot of discussion with the council. This is wonderful news, as the council now has some extra funds for us to put into other things like tree planting and artwork. Now, we've also put together a map which we've sent out to all the residents in the area. And on the map we've marked the proposed changes. Firstly, we'll plant mature pine trees to provide shelter and shade just to the right of the supermarket in Days Road. In order to address the traffic problems, the pavements on the corner of Carberry and Thomas Street will be widened. This will help to reduce the speed of vehicles entering Thomas Street. We think it's very important to separate the local residential streets from the main road, so the roadway at the entrance to Thomas Street from Days Road will be painted red. This should mark it more clearly and act as a signal for traffic to slow down. One way of making sure that the pedestrians are safe is to increase signage at the intersections. A Keep Clear sign will be erected at the junction of Evelyn Street and Hill Street to enable traffic to exit at all times. Something we're planning to do to help control the flow of traffic in the area is to install traffic lights halfway down Hill Street where it crosses Days Road. Now, we haven't only thought about the cars and traffic, of course. There's also something for the children. We're going to get school children in the area to research a local story, the life of a local sports hero, perhaps. And an artist will incorporate that story into paintings on the wall of a building on the other side of Hill Street from the supermarket. And finally, we've agreed to build a new children's playground, which will be at the other end of Hill Street, close to the intersection with Carberry Street.
Wonderful. Now, what's the next stage?
Well, the final plan...
You will hear two students called Dan and Jeannie discussing their studies at university.
Hi Jeannie, how's it going?
Oh, hello Dan. Pretty well, thanks. Have you managed to get the money for the course yet?
Yes, that's all sorted out now, thanks. It took long enough, though. It was practically a year ago that I applied to my local council for a grant, and it took them 6 months to turn me down.
That's really slow.
And I thought I was eligible for government funding, but it seems I was mistaken. So then I asked the boss of the company I used to work for if they would sponsor me, and much to my surprise, he said they'd make a contribution.
But what about college grants and scholarships? There must be some you could apply for.
Yes, there are, but they're all so small that I decided to leave them until I was desperate. And in fact, I didn't need to apply. My parents had been saying that as I already had a job, I ought to support myself through college. But in the end, they took pity on me, so now I've just about got enough.
That's good.
So now I can put a bit of effort into meeting people. Haven't had time so far. Any suggestions?
What about joining some college clubs?
Oh, right. You joined several, didn't you?
Yes. I'm in the drama club. It's our first performance next week, so we're rehearsing frantically, and I've got behind with my work. But it's worth it. I'm hoping to be in the spring production too.
I've never liked acting. Are you doing anything else?
I enjoyed singing when I was at school, so I joined a group when I came to college. I don't think the conductor stretches us enough, though, so I'll give up after the next concert. And I also joined the debating society. It's fun, but with all the rehearsing I'm doing, something has to go, and I'm afraid that's the one.
Do you do any sports?
Yes, I'm in one of the hockey teams. I'm not very good, but I'd really miss it if I stopped. I decided to try tennis when I came to college, and I'm finding it pretty tough going. I'm simply not fit enough.
Nor me. I think I'll give that a miss.
I'm hoping it'll help me to build up my stamina, but it'll probably be a long haul.
Good luck.
Thanks.
How are you finding the course?
I wish we had more seminars.
What? I'd have thought we had more than enough already. All those people saying clever things that I could never think of. It's quite interesting, but I wonder if I'm clever enough to be doing this course.
I find it helpful to listen to the other people. I like the way we're exploring the subject and working towards getting insight into it.
How do you get on with your tutor? I don't think I'm on the same wavelength as mine, so I feel I'm not getting anything out of the tutorials. It would be more productive to read a book instead.
Oh, mine's very demanding. She gives me lots of feedback and advice, so I've got much better at writing essays. And she's helping me plan my revision for the end-of-year exams.
Do tell me, I always struggle with revision.
Well, the first thing is to find out exactly what's required in the exams.
Would it help to get hold of some past papers?
Yes, they'll help to make it clear.
Right, I'll do that. Then what?
Then you can sort out your revision priorities, based on what's most likely to come up. I put these on a card and read them through regularly. But that isn't enough in itself. You also need a timetable to see how you can fit everything in the time available. Then keep it in front of you while you're studying.
I've done that before, but it hasn't helped me.
Maybe you need to do something different every day. So if you break down your revision into small tasks and allocate them to specific days, there's more incentive to tackle them. With big topics, you're more likely to put off starting.
Good idea.
And as I revise each topic, I write a single paragraph about it. Then later I can read it through quickly, and it helps fix things in my mind.
Oh, that's brilliant.
I also write answers to questions for the exam practice. It's hard to make myself do it, though.
Well, I'll try. Thanks a lot, Jeannie. That's a great help.
No problem.
See you around.
Bye.
You will hear a lecturer giving a talk about Australian rock art to a group of archaeology students.
Good morning, everyone. I've been invited to talk about my research project into Australian Aboriginal rock paintings. The Australian Aborigines have recorded both real and symbolic images of their time on rock walls for many thousands of years. Throughout the long history of this tradition, new images have appeared and new painting styles have developed. And these characteristics can be used to categorise the different artistic styles. Among these are what we call the dynamic, yam, and modern styles of painting. One of the most significant characteristics of the different styles is the way that humans are depicted in the paintings. The more recent paintings show people in static poses, but the first human images to dominate rock art paintings over 8,000 years ago were full of movement. These paintings showed people hunting and cooking food, and so they were given the name dynamic to reflect this energy. It's quite amazing considering they were painted in such a simple stick-like form. In the yam period, there was a movement away from stick figures to a more naturalistic shape. However, they didn't go as far as the modern style, which is known as X-ray because it actually makes a feature of the internal skeleton as well as the organs of animals and humans. The yam style of painting got its name from the fact that it featured much curvier figures that actually resemble the vegetable called a yam, which is similar to a sweet potato. The modern paintings are interesting because they include paintings at the time of the first contact with European settlers. Aborigines managed to convey the idea of the settlers' clothing by simply painting the Europeans without any hands, indicating the habit of standing with their hands in their pockets. Size is another characteristic. The more recent images tend to be life-size or even larger, but the dynamic figures are painted in miniature. Aboriginal rock art also records the environmental changes that occurred over thousands of years. For example, we know from the dynamic paintings that over 8,000 years ago, Aborigines would have rarely eaten fish, and sea levels were much lower at this time. In fact, fish didn't start to appear in paintings until the Yam period, along with shells and other marine images. The paintings of the Yam tradition also suggest that during this time, the Aborigines moved away from animals as their main food source and began including vegetables in their diet, as these feature prominently. Freshwater creatures didn't appear in the paintings until the modern period from 4,000 years ago. So these paintings have already taught us a lot. But one image that has always intrigued us is known as the rainbow serpent. The rainbow serpent, which is the focus of my most recent project, gets its name from its snake or serpent-like body, and it first appeared in the Yam period 4,000 to 6,000 years ago. Many believe it is a curious mixture of kangaroo, snake and crocodile. But we decided to study the rainbow serpent paintings to see if we could locate the animal that the very first painters based their image on. The Yam period coincided with the end of the last ice age. This brought about tremendous change in the environment, with the sea levels rising and creeping steadily inland. This flooded many familiar land features and also caused a great deal of disruption to traditional patterns of life, hunting in particular. New shores were formed and totally different creatures would have washed up onto the shores. We studied 107 paintings of the rainbow serpent and found that the one creature that matches it most closely was the ribboned pipefish, which is a type of seahorse. This sea creature would have been a totally unfamiliar sight in the inland regions where the image is found, and it may have been the inspiration behind the early paintings. So, at the end of the Ice Age, there would have been enormous changes in animal and plant life. It's not surprising, then, that the Aborigines linked this abundance to the new creatures they witnessed. Even today, Aborigines see the rainbow serpent as a symbol of creation, which is understandable given the increase in vegetation and the new life forms that featured when the image first appeared.
"Come in, Keith. Take a seat," said Ross Ryan, waving towards the chair on the other side of his large desk. As he entered the office, Keith Betterman paused next to the giant fish tank, which was his managing director's obsession. He looked at the small fish circling in the water. He liked the large shark-like creature with dark, emotionless eyes that swam powerfully through the water. Squaliolus laticaudis. "A dwarf shark," said Ryan. "The interesting thing is, it never outgrows its environment." "You don't say." "Put a shark in a small tank, Keith. It stays small. It's a matter of survival." Betterman looked at his boss. More of a goldfish than a shark, he thought. He smiled generously, however, thinking about the size of his bonus. It was, surely, the reason for the meeting today. "So," said Ryan, "tell me about Operation Incentive." Ah, thought Betterman, so his bonus was probably linked to the results of his successful incentive program. As head of HR, he was used to getting things done and not necessarily being popular for it. "If you're not upsetting someone," his old boss had once told him, "you're doing something wrong." Operation Incentive had been launched 8 months before, using what Betterman described as health and safety measures. His team handed out free fitness trackers to employees to incentivize activity, health, and well-being, but actually to monitor attendance, movement, and toilet or coffee breaks. Betterman's team installed video surveillance to enhance employee security and used keystroke logging and email monitoring to check actual working hours. Specialist software across the entire computer system now recorded all online access, flagging up any unusual websites visited and checking all social media activity. Productivity has risen 4.8% in the past 8 months and is forecast to increase to 5.4% by the year end, said Betterman. We've stopped employees stealing time through multiple toilet stops, water cooler conversation, and extended lunch breaks. We've reduced sickness claims and have targeted personal shopping, chatting, and non-work-related online activity. We've increased attendance and active working hours by close to 11% and 9% respectively. The figures... Don't lie, said Ryan, completing the other man's sentence. I was going to say speak for themselves, said Betterman. The figures don't lie, was how Betterman always started discussions with employees facing disciplinary action, redundancy, or dismissal. The truth was, he liked facts and figures. He liked hardworking, productive workers. There were, of course, complaints from the unions and some of his more outspoken colleagues. But once the troublemakers had been transferred or fired, the number of protests shrank to nothing. Fear wasn't a bad incentive for some people, thought Betterman. and the improvements in productivity were there for all to see. He looked across at the fish tank, where the shark moved silently from one end to the other, its teeth set in a menacing grin, totally unlike his pathetic boss. "What has been the impact on morale, team spirit, and creativity?" asked Ryan. "I think people respect strong leadership," Betterman responded carefully. The managing director pushed a sheet of paper across the desk towards him. Betterman picked it up and glanced at an employee data sheet. Actual attendance 72%, average downtime per day 2.67 hours. Private internet research 16% of online access. The figures went on and on. "Terrible," said Betterman, shaking his head. "Yes, the figures don't lie, do they?" said Ryan, causing Betterman to look up sharply. "And nor do these, Keith," said his boss, passing him a slim folder across to Betterman. Betterman opened the folder and started to read the document inside. As he did so, the color drained from his face. It was a list of social media posts, accompanied by screenshots, dates, and times. One thing was consistent in all of them: the sender's name. The same name was also on the top of the employee data sheet, his name. Betterman had a sick feeling in his stomach as he read two of the comments he had written recently about Ryan. "Spends more time researching fish food than company products. A classic case of promoting stupidity upwards." He had never intended those comments to be seen. They were posted in Betterman's private social media, where he and colleagues exchanged their frustrations about their working lives. "How did you?" asked Betterman. "I must say, the marketing department is very good at monitoring social media," said Ryan. There was a knock on the door, and two giant security guards entered the office. "These gentlemen will see you out, Keith." As Betterman stood, his eyes focused for one last time on the fish tank, where the dwarf shark swam up and down. It looked trapped, alone.
We'll see you next time for more exciting and helpful videos to help you master your speaking fluency through our listening sessions. Thank you for being with us.